Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from Throwaway Golden Bride. It has an update which comes 1.5 years later, and it's titled, Am I the Arsehole for wanting people to wear white at my wedding? So I'm 24 female, having a hard time seeing where I went wrong. But me and my husband-to-be, 26 male, both struggle with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. So I figured an outside opinion might be helpful, since neither of us tends to understand when we're wrong right away. I'm getting married, yay, in December, to the absolute love of my life, and we both wanted to be the most spectacular wedding the world has ever seen, because we both really love attention. I never used to feel comfortable admitting that, but ever since I've been with him, I've been able to really accept that, and it's made my life so much more fun. We decided that instead of having me in a white dress, like all the other white dresses, and him in the same tuxedo as every man in attendance, it would look really spectacular if we both dressed head to toe in gold. What we want is for all of our guests to wear either black, white, or grey, and for us to be the only ones wearing colour. I figured that not only would I look like a princess, but I'd also be dancing with a prince instead of just some guy. And he's so into the idea that he remembers it as being his. We just love the idea of a sea of monochrome and then us in the middle of it all. The only thing is, my sister, 26 female, has been absolutely furious at us ever since the clothing requirements came out. First, she said that this was proof that I had never changed and I was being controlling again. Basically, that asking guests to wear a specific color was insane. Then she started making digs about my hair and how I was just doing this to show off, and asked if I had planned to have her dye her hair too. I did not. We're both blonde, but mine is a bit more yellow blonde, and my husband is dyeing his hair for the wedding. I admitted to that, but also pointed out that it's my wedding and it's normal. Then she accused me of trying to upstage everyone else's wedding dress, basically implying that I was trying to get everyone to show up in wedding dresses so I could compete with them and make myself look even better by comparison. This was not ever the plan. When I mentioned what she said to my husband-to-be, his eyes kind of lit up in this really cute way, and he said we should encourage people to actually wear their own wedding clothes. But we decided it would probably be actually terrible of us. We decided to let our families wear copper if they wanted, so they could stand out as a nice accent to gold. And then my sister would also get to stand out. I was totally willing to pay, and said as much. That was when she called me a spoiled child, and she said she wasn't like me and wasn't in this for herself, and wanted all the guests to be able to wear normal wedding clothes, and that nobody in their right mind would be comfortable wearing white to a wedding. So there was a lot of people asking OP various questions which they gave additional information to. Someone said to OP, it sounds like a really pretty wedding. I don't think upstaging everyone who has ever had a wedding is the goal here. But I also think every person who has a wedding wants it to be special and memorable in their own way. Kinda weird your sister doesn't feel that way. OP says she's really against events where I get attention. I get it, considering how I was before I knew I had NPD and how to handle it. But I guess I thought a wedding was an appropriate time to want attention, you know. The commenter says, have you tried making things right with her since your diagnosis? It can be a bit traumatizing to have any kind of relationship, familial or otherwise, with someone who has NPD. OP says, I have. We went to therapy together when I was 18, and since then our relationship has been 100% on her terms. I really do want to make things right, and I've been trying for a long time. The commenter says, I wonder if your sister is just kicking back because you're not having a traditional wedding and she's jealous of the attention you'll receive. OP said she had a really traditional wedding last year, and I wasn't actually invited to that, so I don't know a lot of the details, but I know she wasn't happy with how it went. I do think that my dress code is pretty simple, especially since, not to be macabre, but everyone has funeral clothes, right? The commenter says, not the arsehole, it's your wedding and this is your special day. If anyone has a problem with that, they shouldn't come. OP says, I do want her there though, like, if I'm being unreasonable here, I'd rather no than not. Someone says, can I ask why you had been excluded from her wedding? OP says, ever since I was 16, she hasn't wanted me at any events focused on her. She asked me to stay home for her high school graduation, all her birthdays, her college graduation, and I couldn't meet her child until a week after either. We sometimes celebrate alone, but when we were growing up, I would do something to grab attention pretty often, at basically any event I was invited to. I've done a lot growing up since then, and apologized a bunch of times, but she still doesn't trust me. Someone responded to that saying, "May I ask what you mean by stealing the spotlight? Was it on purpose, or was it that you naturally draw attention?" Opie says, "It wasn't like it was malicious, but it wasn't exactly not on purpose either. I just absolutely love when everyone is watching me, and I'm pretty good at a lot of things. On my sister's 17th birthday, I gifted her a song I wrote. I got the idea from a TV show, and everyone spent the rest of the party saying how good I was, and that was one of the big things she brought up when she first banned me from her events. I honestly just loved the attention, and it didn't occur to me that what I was doing took something away from her, because I figured everyone loved watching me, so I was just making her parties better, and I thought she also loved watching me. I get it now, and I get that what I did was really wrong, but I didn't understand at the time." Someone replied saying, "How in the world could you see nothing wrong with taking all the attention?" Opie says, "I honestly didn't think I was doing anything bad. A lot of people liked watching me do things from when I was very young. My dad's always said that when I performed it made people happy. I always figured that when I performed I was making a party or event better for everyone, and I thought my sister also liked to watch me, and I loved it a lot. Everything seemed to reinforce that this was a good thing, and I never thought about it as taking away something from my sister." Someone responds saying, "Sounds like you have a good amount of insight into your self-centeredness and are trying to work on it." Opie says, "Thank you. I'm doing my best to grow and be better than I used to be. I know I'll never not be a narcissist, but I'm trying to be more careful not to hurt the people around me or take attention away from other people's accomplishments." A commenter who was downvoted says, "Not the arsehole. You sure you have NPD and aren't just the family scapegoat?" Opie says, "I definitely have NPD. I just also have years of therapy and hard work under my belt, and a really supportive and wonderful partner who has allowed me to accept some things about myself and work on making them less of a detriment and more of a strength." On boundaries and therapy, Opie says, "I'm in therapy. It's been a little tricky to have it be as consistent as I would like, but for now I am in every other week. I know I'll always be a narcissist no matter what I do, and I want to still be able to have a good relationships where I don't hurt or take things away from anyone." I've said something very similar to what you quoted a few times. Her boundaries are pretty simple. We only really meet up at either family gatherings or one-on-one in a private space. If we meet one-on-one, I'm not allowed to talk about myself, my life, or anything I'm accomplishing or working on unless she specifically asks. At family events she'll be at, I need to send her what I'll be wearing ahead of time and have it be non-attention seeking, and I can't perform, sing, dance, etc., or talk about anything I'm working on unless I ask her permission first. And if she says no, I can't ask again. If she tells me she needs to vent, then I can't react or get upset about anything she tells me, or tells anyone else about it. That's pretty much everything. It can be tricky at times, but I know that's mostly my disorder, and it's worth it to have her in my life." Commenter says to OP, "Sorry to comment on this post 3 times, but it's really alarming me. She has to okay your outfits, even if it's at an event that is not focused on her. You are not allowed to talk about yourself whatsoever without permission. Hope someone with more experience with NPD can tell me if there is a healthy rationale behind this, because I think you love your sister so much that you're not able to see clearly that she is controlling you and is frankly really mean to you." OP responds saying, "I'm not allowed to talk about myself at all when it's just us, and then I'm not supposed to ask for permission. When we're at family gatherings, I can talk about myself generally, like my relationships or music I like or anything. I just can't talk about goals or projects I'm working on or accomplishments of any kind without checking, because it's a form of attention seeking. Like most recently, I had to check if she was okay with me talking about learning how to make pizza from scratch for my husband-to-be. But she said it was fine as long as I talked about the learning process and didn't, offer to teach anyone anything or say how great I was at it or anything. The outfits thing can be frustrating, especially since she almost always shoots down 3 or 4 outfits before accepting something, and it's usually way too hot. But it makes her feel way more comfortable, so it's not the biggest deal ever." OP talks about attention, and they said it's more like whenever everyone is paying attention to me, I just feel so happy, and it's like the best feeling in the world. And sometimes when nobody pays attention, I feel it's just horrible. It's like I feel like I only exist if someone is watching. When I'm alone, I barely even have any feelings. It's just all dull and meaningless. But yeah, it did accumulate in me stealing the spotlight when I shouldn't have. I thought at the time that what I was doing was good because it felt right, and a lot of people really do love watching me perform. It didn't occur to me that I was taking something away from my sister. We did go to therapy when I was 18, which is when she put a lot of her boundaries in place. The commenter says, think about it from your sister's perspective. If 90% of the time you always had the attention, that meant she didn't, and you're totally fine with her feeling horrible because you felt good, and you were totally fine with her feeling horrible because you felt good. So everything in your mind is always about you and your desire to feel good. It doesn't matter to you if no one else exists because only your existence matters. Opie says I've thought about that a lot in the past 8 years. Before that, I honestly thought that she didn't really like attention, especially not like I did. Main girls in books didn't like attention like I did. Same on TV. Most of my friends got things like stage fright or nerves talking to strangers that I never did. In my head, this was just how I was, and it seemed less than common. Someone says out of curiosity, what is your parents' position after all this time? Also, the clothing thing is ridiculous, and you should probably set a boundary on not needing permission. Opie says my dad hates it and always said it's ridiculous and tries to get me to perform or talk about myself or take off the coats or sweatshirts she makes me wear, and sometimes takes me inside so we can just hang out with people without my mum and sister and I can relax. My mum is very strict though and says that the boundaries are important and that I abused my sister when we were growing up by stealing attention. To her and her trauma is the most important thing. She made it clear that if I ever refuse, I wouldn't be allowed back at any family events she or my sister are attending. I know my mum and dad fight about it, so I try not to bring it up, because I know they love each other, and they were going to get divorced for a bit when the rules first started when I was 16. Opie adds, she, the sister, definitely doesn't dictate my life. I actually only see my family maybe once a month, twice sometimes, and the rest of the time I get to be more myself. I still try to be more respectful and not awful, but I actually love fashion and my hair and performing. My husband-to-be and I go to karaoke every week at least once, and I'm in a local musical right now. And we do have an update shortly, but I found this whole thing wild, the whole family dynamic. I get the sister being traumatized by what she was brought up with. I absolutely understand that. And I find it really interesting to listen to someone with NPD talking about it so freely like this. You know, we never usually get quite this side of it, you know. But it sounds like OP's made huge steps to be able to deal with the NPD diagnosis and not let it go into other people's lives at the same time. But the whole sister thing, being able to tell her what to wear, what she's allowed to talk about, etc., just it felt really off to me. Like one of the comments said, you know, if you got any more information about that, put it in the comments because I'll be fascinated to read about it. Because it just felt like OP's making steps to deal with what they're dealing with. But, you know, the sister who was traumatized, absolutely, 100% I get that, is now using her trauma to punish her sister. And it feels like she should also be getting some kind of therapy or help to deal with that in a more healthy way rather than controlling her sister with NPD. And one of the comments from OP are talking about their mum being very strict, and she said that she abused her sister growing up by stealing attention. And I thought, well, where was the mum in this? You know, her daughter, her responsibility. But 1.5 years later, OP comes in with an update and says, my husband and I just recently celebrated our first anniversary. And I was thinking about all the dress code drama when I remembered this account and thought it'd be fun to give you all a little 1-year update. After I made my original post, my husband and I decided to contact my sister and parents and have a sit-down discussion about the situation. He offered to take everyone out to eat, and we had this really long discussion about my sister and my relationship. My sister said she made a promise to herself to never let that happen again, and that if I wanted her in my life, I needed to be a normal person. My husband told her that if she was going to keep humiliating me for something I did as a child, then she wasn't a normal person either. It became a bit chaotic. My dad took our side and said my sister's taking things too far. My mum took my sister's side and said that since I have NPD, I'm not capable of real change, and if they ever give in at all, they'll be hurting my sister. It ended with my sister calling my father an enabler and threatening to cut him off. It wasn't a great dinner overall. What surprised me is my sister's husband. She called me the next day at his recommendation, and we talked for a long time. She told me she doesn't want to feel like a side character in the My Name show, and that was how it was for all of our childhoods. I told her I feel like I'm not allowed to have meaningful relationships with any of our family, since she restricts what I say and do and wear around them. I pointed out that she controls my clothes for like every family event, and this is my wedding. And she admitted that was a good point. Eventually, she agreed to attend the wedding in a really cute black and white checkerboard dress and leave if it became too much. The wedding itself was incredible. It was the second best day of my life so far, and my sister said she was genuinely happy for me. I felt like a princess in a fairy tale the whole day, and my husband was the most handsomest prince in the universe. The whole thing was under the stars. It was perfect. I could talk about it forever, but character limits. As a wedding gift, my sister told me that she was going to start letting me wear what I liked at family gatherings and talk about my accomplishments, and talk about myself when it's just me and her a little. And she has, and it's been great. The only better gift I got that night was my husband himself. This past year has been the best of my life, and I genuinely feel so much better about life and family these days. I'm a girl mum now, and I'm so glad my daughter gets to know her aunt and cousins too. I'm even allowed to babysit for my sister sometimes. Someone says to OP after that, "I'm glad your wedding turned out lovely and your relationship with your family has improved. Well done. Your hard work being a better sister and daughter has started to pay off." OP says thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really incredible. My mum even came to see a musical I was in this year, which is the first time she's done that since I was 16. Someone says, "How did you come to realize and value relationships?" OP says, "I've always valued relationships. I want to have people in my life, and I do love my family. I just didn't understand that me getting attention took away from other people. I really, really love attention, but I figured that was just a me thing, since other people get stuff like stage fright or nerves talking to strangers or crushes, and a lot of people are shy or don't want to be the center of attention. It didn't occur to me that stuff I did was bad." Someone says, "I hope you're not discouraged by some of these comments. It sounds like you're on the right track to repairing your family and should keep it up." Given that your husband is also a narcissist, you should both work with therapists to make sure your narcissism doesn't negatively impact your child. There's a pretty big risk there, to be frank, especially if you're spending so much effort moderating your behavior in other areas of life. OP says already under advisement. We're doing everything we can to stay aware of what kids of narcissists can experience so we can avoid it. We both love her so much and would never hurt her for the world. Someone says, "What were you wearing that your sister had to be in charge of your outfits?" OP says, "I like really long flowy dresses, sort of cottagecore princess vibe, with a lot of accessories and sparkly jewelry and stuff like that, flowers in my hair and that kind of thing. It does show off my body though, and my sister says that's attention seeking and causes her to have an unhealthy relationship with food for a long time." Someone says, "What did you get that NP diagnosis from? And have you ever gotten a second opinion? Because this whole situation smells funny." OP says, "I was professionally diagnosed. My current therapist agrees with the diagnosis." And also says, "I do have my own therapist, and I really truly am a narcissist. Genuinely. If you met me, you would understand." And explains one more time, "Actually, my sister's therapist helped with a lot of the boundaries." A commenter says, "You understand that a diagnosis can be reached in error, yeah? A desire to recover from NPD is almost perfectly diagnostic for not actually having it," and says, "Other people are not like me. They have desires and needs that are different than my own. It's something you wouldn't find possible to understand if you're genuinely a narcissist." Bloody hell, Reddit. OP says, "I don't think that's true. I mean, first off, a hallmark of the disorder is thinking you are not like other people. Not that everyone is like you. Either you think you're way better or way worse or both." Someone says, "You're handling this well." OP says, "Thank you. I'm trying my best. My husband really helps. It's like so amazing to have someone who just gets it, you know? I can walk up to him, sit in his lap and be like, 'I want to sing you a whole musical right now.' and here sit and listen and applaud whatever I want. And if he walks up to me and is like, I'm going to read you this essay about how everyone but me is stupid, I will listen and be delighted and in full agreement because he is the smartest person. It makes everything easier because we get to be ourselves around each other, and it's the best thing ever. And we're both completely obsessed with our baby because she's the best baby to ever live. Someone says, do you ever worry you'll get upset with your child like you do your friends? Like you said, a friend made you sit in the back and you started thinking she was awful and you hated her until you realized you were overreacting. Do you worry how you treat your daughter when she's old enough to talk back or tell you she hates you? She won't mean it. All teens say it. Will you be able to love her when she's her own person and not just a reflection of you? Opie says, that's one of my deepest fears, honestly. I've got plans in place for how I'm supposed to react to everything, but realistically, things don't go according to plan. I love her so much, and I never want to hurt her. But if I ever do, I spend every moment trying to make it right, and I'll let her know from the start that Mummy isn't always right about everything, and sometimes Mummy makes mistakes. She's always loved no matter what. The dress. And shares a picture of it. And the color is, just for you podcast users, champagne rose gold. And looking at it, it's like one of those massive poofy dresses. Pretty much what you like see the Disney princesses in. Looks pretty cool in my opinion, but hey, one last thought. I'll never not be a narcissist, but I'm trying my best to be a good person. The editor of this post, Lucy Araya Rose, mentioned that OP answered to hundreds of comments, and there was lots of arguments in the comments about whether or not she's a narcissist, dearie me. Which I'm kind of like, why the bloody hell are they arguing about that for? I mean, you know, you're not going to get an answer in the comments, are you? And in my opinion, she's been diagnosed. Yes, I know there can be misdiagnoses, but at this moment in time, she's been diagnosed, she's trying to deal with it, and I think she's making progress. But Lucy adds one more fairly lengthy comment from OP that adds a bit. It started off with, okay, you want to hear why I'm a diagnosed narcissist? Let's go. 1, if I don't get attention, am alone too long, or cannot express everything in my mind to someone. Doesn't really matter who. I can't feel anything. I just go numb. There is no happiness, no anger, no anything. Just this vat of numbness that is unbearably dull and cannot be escaped until I have all eyes on me. 2, I genuinely believe I'm the best at everything I do on an emotional level. I think I'm a musical genius, and there's a bit to back that up. But I also think that I'm a dancer on the level of at least any backup at a concert, that my drawings are good enough to be in a museum, that my writing is deep and ingenious, that I'm prettier than 99% of models, even with the baby weight, that I can act well enough to win an Oscar if I was ever randomly put in a big budget movie for no reason. And I have nothing backing any of that up, except maybe the writing being slightly above average. My husband has told me that he agrees with the model thing, and I have to put that in this reply. 3, the last time I failed, full-on failed, it was at chemistry, and I temporarily became a full-on anti-vaxxer because I decided chemistry was made up and stupid, and nobody could ever really understand it, and they were all just getting lucky and also evil. In reality, I'm not good at science. I still kind of resent scientists. I also decided that my teacher must be madly in love with me and punishing me for being so beautiful because he didn't want his wife to divorce him. That is how my mind works when I'm not good at a thing. 4, I recently sat my husband down, told him that I had rewritten a whole musical to be about another character and how it was much better than the original. One woman, showed both the original and then mine in front of him without even my piano, and demanded he tell me in detail all the ways mine was better than the original. He's never seen the original or read the book it was based on first. 5, I will talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Look at this post. Look how many hours I've spent talking about myself. In detail, that's probably not the smartest because I'm absolutely loving the attention. I've had 4-hour conversations in which the other person said maybe 10 sentences max. My husband wants me to inform you that it's more like 10 words. 6, my friend had me sit in the back seat instead of shotgun while she took me and 2 other girls to a very expensive concert for her birthday, and I decided she must secretly hate me and that she was boring and mean anyway, and by the time we reached the show I was sure I'd go no contact after, only to realize the shotgun friend was the only one not sitting next to her in the show, and she was trying to be fair, and immediately remembering that actually she's really smart and kind of fun and I love her. I told her all of this to her face the next day. and she said she could tell because she saw me glaring at her in the rearview mirror. 7. I throw a ball on my birthday. A literal ball. We save up all year and I get a fancy dress and rent a ballroom. I make my friends call me Princess, my name, and pretend to be my ladies in waiting. The princess thing is actually pretty consistent in my life. I have tea parties at least once a month too. I'm not a poor little meow meow with a misdiagnosis. I'm a person who has more than one personality trait. And honestly, I don't like that so many people want to say it's wrong. Because my husband has the same diagnosis, and so do a lot of my close friends. And they're the people I'm able to be myself around best, and who understand me. It hurts to hear them disparaged, even if they're trying to uplift me in the process. And one final comment on how the husband relationship works. They said, well, my husband and I just see each other as an extension of ourselves, and we love each other. I have a princess complex. He has a hero complex. We require the other to fulfill that. For our friends, there's definitely some competition there, but there's also a lot of mutual enjoyment. One of my friends is a pretty famous influencer, and she's great to have around, because she gets us VIP treatment everywhere. She took the pictures for my wedding. We do fashion together, and I get a steady stream of promotion gifts from her, because we have very different coloring, and what looks good on me almost always looks not as good on her, and vice versa, I suppose. Another of my NPD friends is an alto, and I'm a soprano. And so we're usually going for different roles in musicals. Basically, as long as we each have a defined niche, we can agree our group in total is the best, and each of us is the best at our role. I'm the best blonde soprano musician in the group, and I don't mind if other people are the best at their own thing, because I don't do social media, /sing alto, whatever else. I gotta be honest, I found that one absolutely fascinating. Usually we see like something very different with narcissistic stories where people are being accused of being narcissists, but someone who's been diagnosed as a narcissist coming in and explaining their thoughts and feelings, the acceptance of it all. Like that last edit, I was really fascinated by, like when they was talking about how they believe they're the best at everything. And the anti-vaxxer thing, and because she didn't ride shotgun with her friend, she started to really resent her to the point of going no contact. The mental gymnastics that Opie has to go through, but then understanding it's not rational at the same time is pretty good growth, right? And I'm glad things seem to be moving in the right direction with the sister. I still like with the parents, I'm like, I don't quite know what's going on there. And the line in quoting, as a wedding gift, my sister told me she was going to start letting me wear what I liked at family gatherings, letting you wear what you want and talk about your accomplishments. I was like, really? But anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? A lot of information there. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time, absolutely your time, absolutely means the world to me. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.